Do you feed your cat a scoop of wet food in the morning and leave dry food out to graze on for the rest of the day? Most owners think this is the smart move, the best of both worlds, convenience plus moisture. But what's actually happening inside your cat's body when you mix the two every day is more complicated than that. And there's one small timing mistake that quietly cancels out most of the benefit you think you're getting. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what mixed feeding does to your cat's hydration, digestion, and weight, and the one mistake almost every wet and dry owner makes without realizing it. 1. Mixed feeding changes how much water your cat actually takes in. Here's why that matters. Cats descend from desert animals, and their instinct to drink water on its own is weak. In the wild, they got moisture from prey, not a bowl. Dry food is roughly 10% water. Wet food is closer to 70 or 80%, so the ratio you choose determines your cat's total hydration far more than the water bowl does. But here's the catch. Most owners assume the water bowl makes up the difference. It usually doesn't. A cat eating mostly dry food with only a small amount of wet food can stay quietly underhydrated for years with no visible signs until urinary or kidney trouble shows up later in life. The fix is simple. Stop treating wet food as a garnish. Treat it as your cat's main water source, and make sure it's a real portion of daily calories, not just a spoonful on top. 2. Mixing textures changes how your cat's stomach actually processes a meal. Here's why. Wet and dry food move through the digestive tract at different speeds. Wet food is soft and moisture-heavy, so it breaks down and passes through faster. Dry food takes longer, needs more water pulled from the body to digest, and sits in the stomach longer before the next meal. When you feed them together in the same sitting, you're asking your cat's gut to manage two very different digestion timelines at once. But here's the catch. This is a big reason some cats vomit shortly after mixed meals, and owners often blame the food itself, switch brands, and never solve the real issue. It's not usually the ingredients, it's the combination and the pace. The fix is nuance, not elimination. Some cats do best with wet and dry served as separate meals, spaced apart, rather than dumped in the same bowl at the same time. If your cat is a frequent eat and vomit cat, that's the first thing to test before you touch the food itself. And quickly, if this is already changing the way you think about how you're feeding your cat every day, take a second to hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps us reach more owners who want what's actually best for their cat. 3. Mixed feeding affects weight control more than most owners expect. Here's why. Dry food is calorie-dense and easy to overfeed because it's usually left out for free grazing. Wet food is lower in calories per gram, but owners often serve it as a full portion on top of the usual dry amount rather than in place of it. But here's the catch. Most weight gain in mixed-fed cats doesn't come from either food alone. It comes from owners never adjusting the dry portion downward once wet food enters the routine. The wet food gets added, the dry bowl never gets smaller, and the extra calories quietly stack up over months. The fix is straightforward. Every time you add wet food to the day, subtract an equivalent amount of calories from the dry portion. Don't add, replace. 4. Mixed feeding changes your cat's mealtime psychology, not just their body. Here's why. Cats are naturally patterned eaters. In the wild, a cat would eat many small meals a day, each one earned through hunting. When dry food sits out constantly and wet food shows up at set times, you accidentally create two different feeding systems running side by side. One that requires no effort and is always available, and one that's a scheduled event. But here's the catch. Cats figure out fast which system gives them more control, and it's almost always the free choice dry food. That's often why a cat seems to prefer dry food, picking at wet food or ignoring it. It's not usually a taste preference, it's a learned pattern based on which food is reliably there no matter what. The fix is to make wet food the anchor of the routine, not the afterthought. Serve it at consistent times, remove it after 20 to 30 minutes if untouched, and stop leaving dry food out in unlimited amounts. Once dry food stops being the always available option, most cats naturally re-engage with wet food again. And here's the mistake almost every wet and dry owner is making without knowing it. Feeding both at the exact same meal, in the exact same bowl, at the exact same ratio, every single day, forever. Here's why that's the real problem. Your cat's hydration needs, activity level, and even digestion change with weather, age, and season, but a fixed daily routine never adjusts for any of it. A cat in a hot summer month needs meaningfully more moisture than the same cat in a cool, low-activity winter week. Most owners never touch the ratio once they land on one. Here's the specific fix. Aim for wet food to make up at least 50% of daily calories, not just a small side portion. Serve wet and dry as separate meals, spaced at least 4 to 6 hours apart, not combined in one bowl. Pull down free grazing dry food and switch to 2 or 3 measured servings a day. And every few months, especially with a change in season or activity, reassess the ratio rather than leaving it on autopilot. Do this consistently for about 2 to 3 weeks, and most owners notice a real difference. More consistent litter box habits, steadier energy, and a cat who actually shows up for wet food instead of ignoring it. So here's the simple version to remember. Wet food is your cat's water source, not a garnish. Dry and wet digest on different timelines, so how you serve them matters as much as what you serve. And the ratio you land on today shouldn't be the ratio you're still using a year from now. You're not just filling a bowl twice a day, you're making 100 small decisions your cat can't make for themselves, and now you know which ones actually matter.